Hello everyone, my name is Cleon Luviano. I'm an Entrust Principal Software Developer, and today I'd like to talk to you about the integration of VMware vSphere and Entrust CloudControl deployed on premises. To prepare for the integration of VMware vSphere and Entrust CloudControl, I performed the installation using the following recommended products and versions: VMware vSphere 7.0.2 and Entrust CloudControl 6.4.1. It is recommended that you follow the VMware vSphere Entrust CloudControl Integration Guide to complete this integration. The guide is located on entrust.com documentation website. Before starting the integration, ensure that you have met all of these prerequisites. Check the integration guide for the description of product configurations and prerequisites to this integration. So next, we're going to talk about downloading Cloud Control software and deploying the Cloud Control appliance inside VMware. Okay, so to download Cloud Control, you're gonna point your browser to this URL here, myhightrust.com, as software downloads, and you're gonna download the HighTrust Control 6.41 version. And here are some screenshots of it. So we're just gonna download the zip file here as you can see. Once the zip file has been downloaded, you're gonna zip the zip file so you can have access to the OVA. Once you have access to the OVA file, we're going to set up a content library in vCenter in VMware. So we're going to create a new content library. I created one here, and here is my library for HighTrust Cloud Control. And I imported, you import the OVA using the import item. So the import item, you do a local file, you select your OVA file, and then you upload it to the library. Okay, once the OVA file is there in the library, you're gonna deploy the Cloud Control appliance by deploying a VM from this item. So you're just gonna right-click on it and then new VM from this template, and you're just gonna proceed with the screenshots, entering the name, selecting the data center, the EXSI host, and so on. And then once you have your Cloud Control VMs deployed, I'm going to show you guys here what we have. So once you have the OVA deployed as a VM, you're going to power on the appliance, okay? And then you're going to configure the Cloud Control virtual appliance. We decided to go with a standalone node, but you can deploy as a cluster. And the online documentation goes over setting up the once you do the standalone node setup, you're gonna log in and go through the Cloud Control GUI setup, which is pretty much gonna set up some of the things like DNS, email, licensing, things like that. So the next step is to be able to add vCenters to Cloud Control. Actions, add vCenter, and this is the screen that you're gonna go through the configuration. I'm going to enter the IP address, the service account, and the service account password here, and follow through the screens, which I'm going to do here now through the guide. So once you put the IP address or the host name, you press continue, and then you're going to configure. On the configuration page, the important thing about it is approving the certificates. So if you look in here, you're going to have the certificates to get approved. So you won't be able to continue to approve each certificate in this page, okay? There is the published IP, which we're going to configure later on, which should be a second IP address, not the vCenter IP address that you have, the default one. It will be a second IP address or a second host where you're going to publish this information to other users. So they don't use the main IP address or a host for the vCenter. They use the proxy one that's being configured here, so users can log in with their own login names and those kind of things. Another important thing here is you can do a tag sync, which is going to import all the vCenter tags into Cloud Control also. Press continue. Again, you must approve all the checkboxes for the certificates, and then you're going to go into the details page. The details page is just going to show you what information is being collected from the vCenter. So how many hosts, how many virtual machines, those kind of things. Once everything is found, you press continue, and then you're gonna go to the onboarding of the hosts. So you're gonna select the host that you wanna onboard into Cloud Control. And in our case, we just have one, we selected, and then we just continue here. And then you're gonna, next step would be to tell what are the host credentials. So vCenter can log into the host, Cloud Control can log into the host and collect information about, allows you to manage that host using the Cloud Control proxy for that host. So to add the credentials, you're gonna click on the host, and you're gonna see that I have missing credentials here. So I'm just gonna input the service account that is used for that host, the root account, and then apply it. And then this should say valid once you apply it. Okay. You can also import the credentials using a CSV file, and the information is here, so you can show. You can see how it gets done. And once the host has been imported, you're gonna see this page showing the newly added vCenters into the system. Okay, we are back here, and we're gonna talk about enabling Global PIP. So we're gonna go to Inventory vSphere. So we're gonna go Inventory vSphere here. And you're gonna click, you have a vCenter and a compute, gonna click on the compute link here, which is gonna show, and you're gonna click on hosts, sorry. And that shows the EXSI host that I have in the system. And you can see the IP address here of the EXSI host. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just assign a separate IP address, which is gonna be the global IP address that's gonna be given out to users. So it's enabled already, but I will show you how to do it. So this is the screenshot that allows you to manage the Global PIP. So you're gonna give the IP address or the host name, if you have one, a different IP address, and you're just gonna enable it. Okay, you're gonna apply, enable it. And also you can download the CSV file, which is gonna contain all the ports for the different protocols on each of the EXSI hosts. So once it's enabled, if you want to see the ports, you can just click on the EXSI host, and you're going to see here Global PIP enable, right? And here proxy access ports. So we have 4 ports here: one HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, and the OpenVM console. So we are interested on the 49153 port, which is the HTTPS port. So I'm going to go here on this side, and I'm just going to test that. 148.13. Here is our port. I'm just going to go there, and you can see here that I have the login screen for the EXSI host, and I'm just going to use the super admin user in this case, which is the users from Cloud Control, and you can see that I'm able to log in to this EXSI host through the proxy IP address, the global IP address on Entrust Cloud Control. I'm going to go over the vCenter also. I'm going to go Inventory, vSphere. And you can see here I have one vCenter. I'm just going to go to the manager. And here's my vCenter, okay? What I'll do is I'll click on it. And the vCenter has a concept of a published IP address, okay? And you can see here, the IP address of the vCenter is 148.12, and the published IP is 148.14. So you can set that to be whatever you want, but the published IP is the IP address that you're gonna give out to users for your vCenter, and it's gonna function the same way. You're gonna be able to log in on that published IP address. You're gonna be able to log into vCenter using your Cloud Control user information. So I'm gonna just go there real quick. 8.14. Okay, and here's my client. And you guys can see that I'm able to, instead of using 148.12, which is my internal IP, I'm just using my public IP. And I'm just going to do super admin user here again. And there you go. And I'm able to log in to vCenter using the published IP address. So in this concept, you're just giving the published IP address to your users. They use their login IDs, and then that way you don't have to give the administrator user ID and password to your users. Next, we're going to talk about adding users to the system. We are using a standalone system with local users. CloudControl also supports Active Directory. So to add a local user, you're going to go to System, Primary Authentication. And you can see here I have already some users in the system. Okay. And you also see the option here to configure Active Directory. So I'm just going to add another local user. I'm going to call and then you can select the groups the user belongs to. Important thing about this is if you give access to the super admin, the user will be able to use access the global PIP and the published PIP for the vCenters, and you'll be able to log in. Without this group, the user won't be able to log in. That's the default access control policy in the system currently. We're going to change later on the access control policy, so you guys can see how that can be done. And you also can add multiple groups here if you want. And test user 3 has been created. As far as Active Directory is concerned, to configure Active Directory, I'm on another system here, just click Configure Active Directory. And here's the message, cannot disable local authentication. Okay, once Active Directory is configured, local authentication cannot be re-enabled. You do that, and then you're going to go to the Active Directory setup according to the settings in your environment. It's going to need a service account for this, so just keep that in mind. If you want to add a user, you can change the password and change the users groups. Now we're going to talk about access control policies. First, let's look at users. The users are on the system, primary authentication. And I have here 3 users that I created. A test user, which has a network admin, is on the network admin group. And I have 2 test users that are on the network engineer group. Okay. So my access control policy is going to be set up so I can just allow the test user, which is on the network admin group, and the super admin user, which is on the super admin, to be able to log into a AXSI host. Network engineers will have a permission denied. So that's the example we're going to create. So to create, we're going to do security trust manifest. And then here we have, I'm going to create a trust manifest. So I'm going to go to my access control. Now I have to create a rule. So I'm going to call this the network admin rule. The role is going to be host admin, which has login privileges. And the subjects that I'm going to implement here is a network admin group. And then I'm going to add another rule to cover the super admin group. So super admin. The policy updated successfully. I'm going to save and I'm going to publish. Okay, now I have to assign resources to my policy. So I'm just going to say any host. Okay, and that will assign any host on the vCenter. I'll close. So I have my access control policy here. That's in place. It's published. So we're going to try now. We're going to validate if this thing works or not. So I'm going to go here to my Global PIP for my AXSI host. First of all, we're going to try the test user 2, which is a network engineer, and then see what happens. Should be permission denied. So he was permission denied due to his security policy. Okay. Then I'm going to try number 10, which is also a network engineer, permission denied. So I'm going to try my test user, which is a network admin, and he's able to successfully log into the EXSI host. I'll log out. I'm also going to try my super admin user. He should be able to also log in. Okay, so my access control policy is working as designed. I'm also want to show you guys, if I go here on the security log analysis, you'll be able to see when things got denied. You can see the denied here, so you can just click and things got denied. So the access network engineer got denied here on my access control policy. Okay, and you can see when the super admin and it got permitted to access based on the access control policy. So we can use the logs to visualize what goes on and why it was denied and what policy was in effect. And I'm going to create security secondary trust manifest. So we're going to create the policy first, the secondary approval policy. So we're going to create my secondary approval policy. So here it is. And the policy type is going to be secondary approval. Okay. Now, again, we're going to have to implement some rules. So here's my approval rule. I'm going to say secondary. And the approvers is going to be the super admin user. So in the operations, I'm going to do login, and we're going to do compose system login. So for our login operation, the test user, a secondary approval is going to be generated and for the super admin to approve before the user can log in. So we're going to validate, we're going to save, and we're going to publish. Now I have to assign some resources, so I'm going to say host, and any host, any XSI host. I'll assign that, and I'll close. So my secondary approval policy is in place. And now I'm going to attempt my secondary test it and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to go here as test user. I'm going to try to log into my XSI host. And I get a permission denied due to security policy, secondary approval request generated. So if I go back here, and we're going to do to my home button, security, and you can see here I have one secondary approval to approve. I'm logged in as super admin user, and here is the test user request. So if I click on it, test user configure the host system login, okay, for 2 hours and unlimited number of operations. Okay, so I'll approve this. Ask me when to start the time. I'll say now, approve, and that is approved. Now if I go back here and I try to log in on the XSI host, I am able to log in, and this operation is going to be in place for 2 hours. So I'll be able to log into this XSI host for 2 hours. And you can look at the logs also. Log analysis, and then you're going to see here what happened. We're going to talk about configuration hardening now. To get to configuration hardening, you're going to go to security, and you're going to do configuration hardening here. And we're going to create a policy here. And when you create a policy, you're going to have to select access only, which is a read-only policy, or remediate, where you're going to be able to change some configuration parameters on your EXSI host, on your vCenter accordingly. Okay, so the first, you cannot have both, so you're going to have a policy to assess your environment, and another one to remediate the environment. So let's create the access only policy first. Here, you're gonna have to select the template. So I'm gonna do EXSI here on the resource type. And here, I'm just gonna use the vSphere High Class Best Practice template, okay? I'll do continue. I'm gonna use resources instead of tags. And I'm gonna use my vCenter, okay? I'm not gonna constrain to anything. I'm just gonna do on the whole system. So I'm just gonna say continue here, and I'm gonna schedule. It's gonna run at 9 o'clock in the morning. So once I do that, I wanna look at my template because I wanna just make some changes to it. So this template already have it set up, so it has 6 operations only. You click on the operations, and I'm gonna just change the check EXSI patch version here. The parameters on it, I want to make sure it's going to be this. I'm going to check to see if I have version 7, okay, of the software install. So that's set up. I can close this, okay, and I can select go back to my policy here. I'm just going to do actions, run now. When I run it, it's initiated here. We have to wait until it gets done. So give it a second. It's completed. Now I can click on the last event to look at what happened and view the full results. 5 passed, 1 failed here. I'm just gonna check what passed, what failed. So this is the failure here. Check local accounts on the EXSI host. But that's not what I'm interested right now. What I'm interested right now is to check the EXSI patch version. And you can see here that the patch version that was returned was 7.02. So I pass, and I can check my EXSI version. So if I have multiple EXSI hosts, I can make sure the configuration on all of them as far as software version is the same, for instance. That's what we did here. Now that we have done the assessment, I'm going to create a remediation policy here. So I'm just going to do another one. I'm going to select remediate, okay, continue. And I'm going to again select EXSI. Again, I'm going to select the vSphere High Class Best Practice. Okay, and I'm not going to assign any tags. I'm going to assign resources. I'm going to select my vCenter. I'll continue here, no constraints, and I'll schedule. So I have created the policy again, my remediation policy. I'm going to click on the template here, and I'm just going to check the operations. And the one I'm going to be interested in is disabling SSH, okay? So when I run this, if SSH is enabled on my host, this automatically should disable it. That's the idea here. So that's what we're going to try. So I'm going to go to my EXSI host here, okay? And I'm here on this guy, and I'm looking for services. I'm on the screen actually, if you not notice. Notice the SSH is stopped, okay? It's not running. So I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to start the services. So I can see the SSH is running right now, okay? So I'm going to go back to Cloud Control, and I'm going to get to my remediation policy here, and I'm going to say run now. Run the remediation policy. It's initiated. Let's give it a second so it finishes. It's finished. I'm going to look at my remediation policy run. I can view the results, and I can see that one completed, okay? So when I look at this, so it skipped, right? Look at this. Pass disable and pass disable SSH here. Result, updated the service. And now to validate this, I'm gonna go here and refresh this page. Okay, I'll do look in here, data center, configure, and my services, and look at here, my SSH service has been stopped. Okay, so this concludes the VMware vSphere Cloud Control video. I hope you enjoyed. Please check our documentation site at entrust.com. Thank you for watching.